Well, it's just 2 minutes after. I guess we can go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to Nerd Days 2.0 to the logging session. So I'm going to start off with a short slide deck, just going over the platform and some of the major features of the product. And then from there, we're just going to dive in and do a lab. Right, this is for engineers. This is all hands-on type stuff here. So let me pull up the deck and then we'll get started. Mm, Share my screen. All right, let's flip over. All right. So before we get started, just some quick lab prep here. If everyone could go to that URL right there, it takes you to a doc. It really just outlines what we're going to be doing today in the lab. You don't have to worry about the actual commands in the lab. The lab will have the commands in there for you already. But the main thing there is to open up the link for the instruct lab, which is also linked here, and just click start on that first track there. So what that does, it spins up your instance. It usually doesn't take that long, maybe 30-45 seconds, but just wanted to have everyone kick that off now so that can be spinning up while we go through these slides. So by the time we're done, it should, that should be more than enough time for everyone's instance to spin up. All right. Again, welcome to Nerd Days 2.0. And we're going to be talking about logging for modern organizations. And it's really just logging for everyone, right? Everyone needs to see their logs and they want to see it in a useful way. And what New Relic has done, we've brought it into our platform and integrated it with the other parts of the platform that you already know. And so with that, well, safe harbor, that's a required slide. If you can think about New Relic as sort of a birthday cake, the base layer here is our telemetry data platform. That's our base storage engine. Allows you to ingest data from anywhere and everywhere, visualize it, alert on it. And then above that, the next layer is full stack observability. It gives you those curated views for Kubernetes, logs and context, that sort of thing. And then up top, that's sort of icing on the cake. That's our applied intelligence layer with machine learning as well. Helps you correlate, see anomalies, do some predictions, those sorts of things. Sort of taking a deeper dive into TDP, telemetry data platform, again, that's our base engine. You can bring in data from basically anywhere. Even if there isn't an integration out of our 300 plus, listed there, our API will accept, basically any JSON payload. So even if it's something homegrown, you can still send the data to us. We'll accept it just fine. Um, we integrate with Grafana as well. So if you're already using Grafana, totally fine. You can keep doing that. We integrate with Grafana as well. Um, and then moving on to full stack observability, that's your curated area. Gives you logs and context. Gives you that curated view for Kubernetes. Um, synthetics, serverless. Those types of areas that really take it up just another level from the base TDP layer. So looking at the log market, when we started this a few years back, we surveyed the market and we found the logging products out there today are basically just too slow. It starts with an indexing phase. You go through an indexing phase whenever data is ingested. So for it to be searchable and usable, your search engine has to index it. Makes sense. That's a common architecture. We decided to go about it, in a totally different way. So with us, you don't have indexes, so there is no indexing phase. So our time to glass, we like to say 5 seconds or less. It's usually a lot less, because for us, it's just however long it takes to persist data to disk. As soon as we store it to disk, it's searchable, usable, alertable, immediately. Um, but looking at the market, those other tools that have that indexing phase and slow queries, that really that really puts a damper on your mean time to detect, right? You can't detect it because it's still indexing and the searches are kind of slow. And then that feeds into your mean time to resolution. You can't resolve it, at least not quickly because you're still waiting for everything else to happen. So that was a big design change, with our logging setup. Also, with other products, they're usually too complex. They require custom skills. A lot of them require dedicated infrastructure. You need to spin up a server. And anytime you mention spinning up a logging server, it feeds into the next bubble, which is limited scalability. So anytime you hear someone say spinning up a logging server, you are inherently not scalable, right? You're only as scalable as that one server. So by default, New Relic is distributed. There is no such thing as a New Relic server. That doesn't exist. So, we're, cloud-based, distributed. So that scalability hurdle just doesn't exist with us. Also price. So, the last one, sort of, along the lines of too complex, some of this dedicated infrastructure and custom skills requires dedicated headcount. Sometimes you'll see, specialized, labor that's focused on logging. And that's a challenge to staff up. It's a challenge to keep up, with that environment. And then also it's tough to get to complete observability. You have this separate tool that's one off and by itself. It's kind of hard to see, holistically from start to finish, what happened through APM, infrastructure, and then logs. You're usually, context switching from one tool to another. So it's just, again, it doesn't help your MTTR. Um, the TDP area, logs at scale. So what we did with our logging platform, it's native to the platform. It's baked into everything there. You query logs just like you would anything else at New Relic. There's nothing different there. So it's very familiar for people who are already in New Relic. Um, we have machine learning baked into the logging product. It'll expose patterns with your logs. It can help you see at a higher level. And I'll show an example of that in the during the demo. The lab environment, how you can use patterns to see at a high level, um, where the errors are coming from, what's where the log volume is coming from. You may see errors in pockets. Oh, there's an error here with this one trace, but at a much bigger level, how big of an impact is that to your environment? So patterns can help surface some of that. We support on-prem cloud data. Doesn't really matter. We have integrations with all of the cloud providers today, the main three. Again, the less than 5 seconds time to glass, and that's pretty consistent. It doesn't really matter. That doesn't change. As volume increases. That's just as long as we can ingest it and store it to disk. It's 5 seconds or less. And our search language is based on Lucene. So Lucene's pretty popular, especially with the Elastic crowd. So that's, there's nothing too custom there. And then on the back end, it's our native Nurgle language, which that's how you query everything within New Relic. So, that should be pretty familiar to everyone. You can save and share views of logs, right? Logs come in all different types, sizes, different environments, Windows, Linux. So you can have a special view that's special to your team or special to your environment. However you want to, customize it, and then you can save it, share it with your other team members, your whole, the whole organization, the whole company. So that way, when you come in, if you come in and you just want to see Windows event logs, I can just click that saved view that I just created, It automatically searches. The columns that I want to be there are there. I don't have to do anything else. It's just one click and done. And then we also have parsing. So this was another thing that we included with our platform. We give you not only out of the box parsing. So we have parsing that is specific to some log types that will automatically be parsed as soon as you send it to us. And then we also have custom parsing in the UI. So with a lot of tools, you have to put in parsing at the agent level, which we support as well. But an easier way is to do it through the UI, because through the UI, you can do it and have it apply to your whole environment, and then just manage it centrally, just from one place, instead of managing it across 500 plus servers. We also have drop filters and partitions, so two totally different things. The first one, drop filters, is focused on, just like it says, is dropping data. Logs can be noisy, so if you need help, eliminating some of the noise, you can create a drop filter and say, hey, for these logs, I don't need to ingest it. I don't need to see it. It's just noise. Can you just drop it? And so it drops it before it's stored, and that does help you save on your bill. So that's an extra bonus. Partitions, that is a way for you to sort of two things: organize your logs so they're grouped differently, right? So you can have, say, Linux logs go to this partition, Windows logs go to this other partition. So it helps group them that way, but at the same time, it also helps with performance, right? If you think about it, you took your data, now you split it across two partitions, or more. Now, when you go to query them, you query a much smaller set of data. So even better, performance there. We have all the cloud vendor integrations: AWS, Azure, GCP. Heroku was just a recent addition, so we support Heroku drains as well. And then we also correlate logs with other telemetry data within New Relic, and I'll show you some of that, during the demo. And then the bonus on top of all of this is that there's no infrastructure to manage, right? So, like I said before, there is no New Relic server to deploy. You can just deploy our infrastructure agent, has logging baked in. It is always there, always ready to run. You don't have to turn anything on. You just drop in a config file, and then it's off to the races. So this high-level architecture here just shows how we can get logs from all the different sources. We have plugins for all the major open source forwarders: FluentBit, Logstash, FluentD, as well as our own infrastructure agent that has a logging forwarder bundled with it. We also have our API. We noted JSON there, just because that's our native parsing. So if you send us logs in JSON format, there's nothing else you need to do. It's automatically parsed into attributes, and you're totally done. And then some of the other integrations down at the bottom there, you can send us logs, from your Lambda functions. We have a syslog integration for both our syslog, syslog ng. So if you already have, those environments set up, you can just add a config file and then forward that data to us. And then, of course, our API, which now also supports headerless API calls. So it's just an API URL with a slash and your API key, and then you're off. You don't need a header there for the payload. All right, it's lab time. So let's bounce out of this, and if we want to, let's go to the lab here. So when you go to the lab on instruct, you want to start here with the first challenge. I've already done it a couple times just to make sure it flows. So I'm just going to hit restart here. And I know I asked everyone to spin up their resource, but I didn't spin up my own. So apologies for that. A couple seconds here. And once we're in, we have tweaked the scripts a bit. It allows you to create a custom host name. So if you followed along in the doc here, so we do have a central New Relic account here that everyone can log into. So you can just use this generic login and this password. Gets you into that one account. And then once you're in, you'll see here, um, you know, when the script starts, you can create your own host, give it your own name, and that allows you to, um, have your own, named host, so that way it doesn't get confused with, everyone else. Um, Other than that, that's about it. You don't have to worry about insert your API key here. That's normally what you would do. If you had your own account, you would definitely want to put your specific key there. Um, so let's go ahead and start. So let us know in the comments if you're not able to get into the instruct track. You should be able to get in, and it should, once it spins up your instance, you should be taken to a terminal here. It's just running CentOS. So let us know in the chat if you can't see this. But running through this, it's we did quite a bit of work here to make this just a copy paste exercise here. So you can just copy the entire block. You can come over here, paste it, and then just hit run. So what this is doing, installing wget and then pulling down a custom script to just essentially let you change the name of the host. So you should get this prompt here that says enter your new host name. We'll call this one Leon's test one. All right, and that's it. So this was just, if you will, step A instead of step one. 1A. Just get a new host name in there, and this next part. So this step one here, we're actually going to install the infrastructure agent. So this is a little bit different than how you could do it just using our New Relic CLI. If you notice, it's just running a curl, downloading the repo. So it sort of gives you a behind the curtains look of how the sausage is made. But from the UI, you could also do this just by clicking add more data and just following the prompts, and we will generate all of this for you. And then you can just, paste this into a terminal and let it run. But just for the sake of the lab, we kind of broke this up and did it, custom for everyone here, just to make it, easier to run through. All right, so now we have the agent there. So step two, we have some custom logs that are staged. These are just Apache logs. So I have them staged in a shared area, and then again, it's just copy paste. It's just going to download these log files, and when it's done, you'll see some log messages in the account. So when this is done, we can click over to the New Relic account and then see how that looks. All right, so if you ever just want to peek and see what the logging config file looks like, that is it right there. So it's just a YAML file, and we're specifying the different files that we would like to tail. We can add custom attributes here, like if you notice. Well, let me highlight Apache. There's messages, and then we also have a demo log there. So that's the first big part. So we have it set up and sending logs. So let's click over here. So we're in the logging lab. Hope everyone has access. So if you just hit query. All right, so we have Leon's test one here. Maybe I'll wait a minute and make sure everyone can get in. No start button. Oh man. Well, ooh, sorry. That's for later. So this, these are the unparsed logs that that just came in. So that's what we have now. Let me actually double check. Okay, no drop filters. Good, good. So this is what we have now. And then going back, what we can do here. So the next step. So we're just viewing the unparsed log data, which, by the way, if you wanted a more granular view, you can always click on the row, and then it will pop out. And then you can scroll down and see all the attributes, including the message here. So this is our message. And that's it for now. There's something else I want to touch on later, but I want to get through the lab first. So something we can do, I mentioned drop filters, so we can copy this here. Let's make sure those showed up here. Do I have messages? No, not yet. All right, those didn't come in. So what we can do, oh, well, it helps if I put my host name in there. All right. So let's try this. Oh, no message data. So let's just look at the host here. I think it's just those 3 that came in. So you could create a drop filter here. You could just go to drop filters. Down here, create drop filter. This name, you can make it whatever you want, but the key here is the query. And then here we can just drop attributes. So we can, say, instance type. I don't really care. They're all the same. Or Linux distribution. So here I'm just dropping the attributes. So you can just drop certain attributes, or you can drop the entire log. We don't want to drop the entire log because we're going to be working with it a little bit more. We can just drop agent name for now and save and enable. So now we're good. All right. So that's a drop filter. And just quick time check. Okay. So coming down, we noticed before, right, like here, all the data just gets stuffed into this message field. So we get the data, but it's not as readable. It's not as easy on the eye. So what we can do, we can come in here. So this is a grok pattern, and we can take this out. And so come in here and then go to parsing. This is my old one. Let's delete that. Let's create a fresh one. Let's create a test based on my host name. So Leon test 1. All right, let's enable this, but let's test it first. So here we have a test button. You can test it, and we can see, okay, this grok pattern does match. We get the green check marks, looking good. Enable it, and then we can save it. So now that that's saved, let's go back. So now that we have the parsing rule in place, now we can run this other command here, and all we're going to do is just pump some more Apache logs in there. So copy that, paste it, and that's it. So now we can go back, search this again, And now, oh, now we have messages. So wait a bit. Oh, there we go. So now we have these other Apache logs in here. So now, right, they look the same, but if we go down, or sorry, go up, attributes used to be down. Now it's up here toward the top. So old habits die hard. Um, so now, with this host name, if we can look at now attributes, and some of the attributes, they'll be down here on, under other. So we get client IP, HTTP version. We get all these other response, we get all these other attributes here. And what we can do is come down here to the plus sign, type those in, get those added. Let's see, response. So we'll just add those two for these Apache logs. So, right, when you scroll down, now we're getting, okay, we see the IP address. This is now parsed out. We get the response parsed out. So now we can see, oh, response is now our 404. So now we can just add this to the search. And let's sort of click out of that attribute view. So now we can see, oh, these new ones had a 404 response, HTTP code. So seems kind of bad. Good thing is, from here on the left, you can just create an alert condition based on this. So now that we have them parsed, now it's much easier to set up alerts, dashboards, right? You could put this into a dashboard or put this into an alert. This is critical. You want to know when you get 404s. That's, it's kind of a bad thing. So now, then you just click save. So then you're done. So that's your alert, and that is the bulk of the lab there. So just just a couple minutes, ingesting logs, paste in a grok pattern. We can create drop filters to clean this up. So if you want, we can go back. Let's go back to my host. So add this guy back to the search. So these took a couple minutes to come in. So now we can come in here, create a drop filter, drop the entire logs. So now these message ones, they won't come in, anymore. So all we're really concerned about at this point are the Apache logs. So, and then you saw adding the parse, we can now, pull out attributes that are important. The IP address, we can get that. We can get the code, 404, that seems ugly. Let's put that into an alert. All that from here within the UI. One of the other items I wanted to show, and I mentioned it in the deck, was our ability to do logs in context. And one of the ways, we call this reverse logs in context, because usually logs in context is from some entity over to logs, and I'll show that as well. But since we're here in this UI, I wanted to show the reverse, which is from a log, can you get information on the host itself? So for instance, this one, these are 404s. You click on it, like, wow, that's pretty bad. What's going on with this host? Well, you can just click on the host here and you get a slide out of that particular host. So you can see a spike in network traffic. Was that the issue? Load was, this isn't high, but relatively, right? There's a spike. And then over here, we can see open violations, if there were any. And then also over here, we can see latest events. So we can see agent connected, fluent bit. Our logging forwarder is based on fluent bit. We can see it stopped and started. Okay, that looks, fine. It's running. So, but you can get your host metrics straight from your log data just by a quick click, right? And if you notice, it's in context because I never left where I was before. If you notice, these are just slide out windows. I am still where I was before. I'm still here, on this log record. So I never left. Um, so that gives you an idea of logs in context. Maybe arguably a better example would be, this is a different account. So what you would have is for APM. So you have an application. We have this order composer application. You can go down to, or go up, sorry, to distributed tracing. And you can go to your trace groups. Say, I want to look at purchases. That's important, to this particular site. Purchases, usually are, right? And for this one, I'm going to, that's kind of far back. Let's change this time frame here. Get something more current. Oh, there we go. So we can see, just from this small graph here, the number of errors are just all over the map, right? It looks sketchy. So let's check him out. And, we want to look at errors. So let's, this guy here, 3 minutes ago, fairly recent, order processing, 2 errors already. So let's click into him. This will slide out. You get a nice little graph here. We get anomalous spans, and these are the errors. So now we can click on this, gives you details here, and you get a name error. So, like, what is that about? So if you wanted more information to see all the other breadcrumbs that happened before and after this particular error, you can click on See Logs. And you get this other slide out. And now we can see the logs that happen, right? So here's our error message right here. We can click on this guy. Again, it slides out. And yeah, it's just a name error. So we can go back and get that fixed. But at the same time, we can also see what happened after, this order status. Did the order go through? So now we can go through and check. And then also what happened before. So, what host name did it come from? Okay, this is packing room. Then it went to order status, and then it failed. So, it's pretty critical to be able to see the breadcrumbs both before and after an error happens. Gives you, just that extra context about, instead of just a tree fell down in the forest, sort of thing. So that's useful, but at the same time, it's also useful to see, what happened before and after. And then for logs in context, that was logs in context from APM. But let me actually refresh this. We can also see here from, let's see if we can get a good one here. Oh, let's take the error out. So we do get, logs, here from the UI, but then if you wanted to go back, so not only can you go back to the host, but you can also go back to the service itself. So, showed you how you can get host level metrics here. We can get it for the application itself. So, you can scroll down, you can see trace information, error rate, throughput, aptX score. And you can see all the hosts that it's running from. So you get sort of a high level, high level view of metrics, for the hosts themselves. So response time, CPU, if anything looks out of the ordinary, you can pull them out. This guy here, throughput is none. Maybe that looks suspicious. If he's in the load balancer, he should be doing some work. So, something to keep an eye on. And then circling back, I mentioned, machine learning and log patterns. in the UI for logs. And so what you can do over here on the left, you get a little link for log patterns. Let's change this up here. Maybe, oh, sorry. I still have my inventory service up there. Let's clear him out. So if you want to look at your account as a whole, right, you can just, just leave it blank, pull up patterns. So this will show you, what patterns are going on within your logging environment. So, I showed how you can see errors in traces, in the logs, get metrics both back and forth, right, to correlate that. But at a higher level, how big of an impact is this, in my environment? So here we can click on some of these. So if you notice this one here, this area here is just an IO exception, no such file. So we're pointing to a file or directory that just doesn't exist. So that could be a problem, right? And so when you look at it, this is the fifth largest group of logs in our environment. So man, that's pretty significant. If you look at the count here, it's not that far back from the number one group. So could be something to look at, if you're getting that many errors from one area. So it just helps you, from a holistic view, see where the logs are coming from. And if you're having issues, the volume of issues. So when you look at it, you're seeing, wow, the fifth largest one is a file not found. That's that seems problematic. So it could be something worth looking into. And then same thing here, right? The fourth one, same volume. This is just retrying a request, so it can't get through. It's just going to port 80, and it's just localhost. So there could be something up there. So that's just something else to to look into. And then in the slides, I also mentioned partitions. So this is something else. If you're in the account, feel free to poke around. Can't really break anything in here. So with partitions, again, it gives you a way to group your logs and also help with your performance, right? At a huge volume. We're talking terabytes a day. So what we can do, let's see, data partitions. It doesn't have any partitions. So no, sorry. Yeah, we'd have to create partitions here. So partitions would would let you again group them, optimize for performance, and give you just a little bit more management around your logs, instead of just logging everything into one central place called log. Your saved views would be stored here. So for instance, we bounce over to the logging lab. So partitions are here. I bet I have permissions here. Yes. So this is just a standard partition. Secondaries, you can do secondaries. It just gives you 30 days worth of retention. So slightly different than your standard. Standard is just whatever you have configured for your account. So it's test, and I want to stick all of my logs into my own partition. And there we go. So now if I wanted to test this out, I could go back here and just run this command again, and then come back. So now it won't show up under log, right? I told it to go to log_Leon. So we can check that partition, and they should eventually, there we go, they should eventually show up. So that's a way you can partition your data, separate it. Again, just helps you organize, and then also, much higher level, gives you, much better performance. So there's huge payoffs there. And then also don't forget up top, we have add more data sources. So you can click this. And then from here, these are all the different integrations we have for logging, not all of them. But these are the ones that we have in the UI where it will generate a script for you. So we have others, they're just in the docs. They're just not here in the UI. But again, very easy to set up. The major cloud providers are here and, just ready to go. So when you click on those, it'll just generate it for you. Then you can just bring it over to your cloud environment and let it run. I think that's about it. Let me hop back. Haven't really looked at. Oh, someone asked about using TLS when sending the logs. Yes, so we use TLS for sending all logs. And in fact, we won't accept it otherwise. So not only do we use TLS, we require it. That is by default and always. So that is the only way we can accept it. Any other questions? Trying to see if I missed any. All right. I don't see any other questions. Well, if there aren't any others, feel free to poke around here in the here in the account. You can play with data partitions, practice creating alerts. You can add, we have the shortcut here to add this to a dashboard. So, this particular view right now isn't very exciting. I just have a few log messages, but you can click this, give it a title, and then, pick your account, whatnot. For yours, it should just show the one. I have too many accounts of mine, so I get a huge list here. But you can add it to a dashboard and then tweak it from there. Drop filters, we covered. We also have live tail. So you could just click live tail here, it clicks play. You guys wanted to pop back out. Just, run that sudo tail command again, just sends, the same log records in, and they should show up. So the only thing live tail gives you is you don't have to press the refresh button. Again, since we don't have an indexing phase, our time to glass is already, fairly short. It really is just, if you have a certain scenario that you're trying to debug and you just want to see the logs flow in, real time, then you can just turn that on and, wait for the results. And so that is live tail. We do have patterns, but since we don't have, since we don't have that many records, it's kind of hard for machine learning to create patterns out of this, right? We only have 30 something rows at the moment. So, the engine feeds off of data. So the more data, the better. But feel free again, to poke around, play around with it. This is just a playground. So, any other questions? Sorry. Filtering passwords. Yeah, so password filtering, drop filters is one way to deal with passwords. So that will drop the password field entirely, right? If you wanted to obfuscate the passwords, you would have to do it at the agent level. So with Fluent Bit, you can use a modify filter and override it with some generic text. So I've done some in the past, and we just write over it with no PII at here.com or something. So you could just write whatever you want and just overwrites the field, but that's done at the agent level. Live tail obscures the latest log entry. Yeah, so the live tail banner at the bottom does cover up that last log line. That is true. So that is something that the UI team, is working on. They're very aware of that. So that is in the works. Um, yeah, yeah, no, it's not just you. It's we we all know. So we're definitely working on that, and that should be out pretty soon. So um, there's no other questions. I can let everyone go early. Thanks so much for hanging in there with me. Um, and yeah, thanks. And be sure and check out the other sessions as well. So all right, all right. See you, everyone.